The HOA president just cost me $47,000, 0 cents in damages, and thinks she can waltz onto my 320-acre ranch whenever she pleases. But what she doesn't know is that I've been documenting everything for the past 8 months. I'm talking about certified letters, illegal fines, trespassing, harassment, and even fake police reports. This woman tried to destroy my family over rusty farm equipment she could barely see from her McMansion. But here's the thing. By the end of this story, she'll be the one in handcuffs, while I'm signing a $2,300,000 0 cents conservation deal that makes my property legally untouchable forever. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare? Drop your worst story below, because I guarantee it doesn't top this insanity. And I'm curious, where are you watching from? City apartment or country property? Hit that subscribe button, because this revenge story gets absolutely wild. My name's Jake. I'm 38, and 3 years ago I made the best decision of my life. I escaped the corporate rat race and moved my family to my grandfather's 320-acre cattle ranch outside Austin. Morning coffee tastes different when you're watching sunrise over land you actually own, instead of staring at your neighbor's fence 6 feet away. My wife Sarah and our 2 kids, Emma and Connor, traded suburban stress for something real. The sound of our kids' laughter echoing across open pastures, instead of bouncing off cookie-cutter houses, priceless. I could run my hands along the rough bark of century-old oak trees my grandfather climbed as a boy. Breathe in that sweet smell of hay mixed with morning dew that no city air freshener can replicate. This working ranch had everything: cattle, organic farming section, even a natural spring that's been flowing since before Texas was a state. We bordered a newer development called Sunset Hills HOA, built in 2019 with those $800,000 0 cents McMansions that all look exactly the same. Enter Patricia Morrison, Pat to her victims. 52 years old, HOA president for 3 years, real estate background from Dallas. This woman moved into her beige palace and immediately decided everyone within a 5-mile radius needed to follow her rules. The first shot fired came via certified letter. Pat demanded I maintain property standards visible from HOA homes because my rusty farm equipment apparently decreased property values. She threatened $500, 0 cents per day fines, despite my ranch predating her neighborhood by 80 years. When she showed up unannounced with a clipboard and measuring tape like she owned the place, I kept it polite. "Ma'am, this is private property. You have no authority here." Pat waved some official-looking document. Actually, the HOA covenant covers adjacent properties affecting community aesthetics. I asked her to leave. She smirked and said, "We'll see about that." That night I researched her fake covenant. Complete fiction. Turned out Pat had tried this same power play on 3 other neighbors. Time to install security cameras. Pat's next move was filing a nuisance complaint with the county, claiming my cattle created health hazards. She contacted local news about my unregulated farming operation and organized an HOA petition signed by 47 residents, most of whom had never even seen my property. But here's where Pat made her first mistake. I requested the HOA's financial records, which are public in Texas. Guess what I found? Pat had spent $23,000, 0 cents in community funds on legal consulting, the same law firm handling her messy divorce. Knowledge nugget: in Texas, HOA board members face personal liability for misusing community funds under Property Code Section 200900505. One-sentence takeaway: always request HOA financial records when board members get lawsuit happy. You might find they're stealing from neighbors to fund personal vendettas. The county inspector showed up a week later, looking embarrassed. "Let me guess," I said. "Anonymous complaint?" Actually, 47 complaints. Same person called 47 times using different names. The inspection revealed 0 violations. As he packed up, he whispered, "Someone's really got it out for you, buddy." That's when Pat called, absolutely furious. "This isn't over. My husband knows people." "Your ex-husband?" I replied, because according to the court records I just pulled, click, she hung up. Standing in my pasture that evening watching cattle graze peacefully while meadowlarks sang over the distant highway hum, I realized this wasn't about property standards. This was about control. Pat couldn't stand that someone in her territory didn't bow down to her authority. 3 HOA neighbors secretly approached me over the next few days. Mrs. Chen got hit with a $1,200 0 cents fine for using the wrong shade of beige paint. Tom Rodriguez faced demands for Pat to inspect his backyard pool. We weren't just dealing with one crazy lady. We were looking at a pattern of abuse. Pat escalated with military precision. She claimed my ranch road created a traffic safety hazard and demanded the county install stop signs at my private driveway. Then she filed an environmental complaint about runoff contamination and hired a private investigator to photograph my property from the public road. My security cameras caught her PI trespassing at 2 a.m. with the telephoto lens. Knowledge nugget. Texas Penal Code 42.07 covers harassment, including hiring others to surveil private property. One sentence takeaway. If someone's paying people to spy on you, document everything. It's a felony in most states. But Pat's masterstroke was claiming my irrigation system diverted water from the HOA's retention pond. She threatened a lawsuit for theft of community water resources. Lady, I told her, my spring was here before your neighborhood existed. Prove it, she shot back. Challenge accepted. I dove into county records and geological surveys, discovering something beautiful. My spring fed the creek that filled their precious pond. The original developer had designed the retention system to capture overflow from my water source. These HOA residents had been using my water for 4 years without permission. My cousin recommended a water rights attorney who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw the paperwork. Son, you don't just own that spring. You own the water rights for the entire watershed. You could legally cut off their water supply tomorrow if you wanted. Knowledge nugget. Prior appropriation doctrine in Texas follows first in time, first in right under Water Code Chapter 11. One sentence takeaway. Original water users have superior rights over everyone who came later, regardless of how much money they spent on fancy neighborhoods. When Pat showed up with 3 board members demanding immediate access for water flow assessment, I asked to see their surveyor's licenses. We don't need licenses on our own property, Pat snapped. Ma'am, I replied calmly, you're standing on my property. One board member pulled out his phone to call the sheriff. Please do, I said, ask for Deputy Martinez. He's my cousin. Pat's face went white. They retreated to their cars, but she rolled down her window to scream, "This is war." Pat went full scorched earth. Anonymous reports to the IRS claimed I ran an unlicensed commercial operation. Child Protective Services got called about unsafe conditions around farm equipment. She spread rumors at local businesses that I was a difficult neighbor and posted constantly on neighborhood Facebook groups about property value concerns. The real damage hit my family. Emma came home crying because a classmate's mom wouldn't let her visit the ranch anymore. Sarah stressed herself sick over the CPS visit, even though they found nothing wrong. 9-year-old Connor asked me, "Dad, are we bad people?" That's when I realized this had evolved beyond a property dispute. I dug deeper into Pat's history and found a disturbing pattern. She'd attacked every neighbor who opposed her authority. Elderly Mr. Peterson was forced to sell after accumulating $12,000 0 cents in bogus fines. A young couple went bankrupt fighting illegal parking violations. Pat earned a 15% commission on forced property sales through her realtor buddy. Reviewing months of security footage revealed systematic trespassing. Pat had personally entered my property 6 times, once bringing potential buyers for an unauthorized tour of adjacent land. Knowledge nugget. Criminal trespass in Texas becomes a felony with commercial intent under Penal Code 30.02. One sentence takeaway. If someone's trespassing to make money off your property, that's felony territory with serious jail time. I shifted strategy, realizing I was fighting symptoms instead of the disease. Pat's real goal was forcing me out so she could develop my land. I contacted Texas Parks and Wildlife about a conservation easement and discovered something incredible. My ranch contained endangered golden-cheeked warbler habitat. Dr. Maria Santos, a wildlife biologist, nearly jumped out of her truck when she visited. "Mr. Thompson, your property is a biodiversity goldmine. These bird species are federally protected under the Endangered Species Act." Pat's nuclear option was filing a restraining order claiming I'd threatened physical violence. The local newspaper ran the story. Ranch owner accused of harassment. Sarah found it at the grocery store and came home humiliated. Standing in my grandfather's pasture, I almost considered selling just to end the nightmare. Then, I heard it. The distinctive call of a golden-cheeked warbler. Granddad always said, "Land doesn't belong to us, son. We belong to it." I'm to fight back. Cleaning out Granddad's old desk, I found a manila envelope I'd missed 3 years earlier. Inside was a 1943 deed restriction stating the property shall remain in agricultural use in perpetuity. My grandfather had donated the development rights to the county as part of a Depression-era tax settlement. This was a legal bombshell. Any attempt to force development violated county ordinance, and the HOA developer had known about it. Deeper research revealed the ugly truth. The development company built Sunset Hills anyway, betting they could eventually challenge the restriction through community pressure and political connections. Pat's realtor friend had been a development company partner from day one. They'd been planning this land grab for years, using HOA harassment as their weapon. Dr. Santos explained the federal conservation tax credit program. I could receive $2,300,000 0 cents over 10 years for placing a permanent conservation easement on the property. The ranch would become legally untouchable as a wildlife sanctuary, with property taxes reduced to almost nothing. Meanwhile, court records showed Pat owed $340,000 0 cents in her divorce settlement. Her realtor buddy had promised a $50,000 0 cent commission if they could force me to sell. The HOA reserves were nearly depleted from Pat's legal spending spree, meaning residents faced a massive special assessment to cover her mismanagement. The smoking gun came from my security cameras. Pat and her realtor friend were recorded on my property at midnight, discussing Phase 2 development plans. "Once we get Thompson out, we can challenge the restriction in court," Pat said. "County commissioners owe us favors from previous projects," the realtor replied. This wasn't personal harassment, it was organized crime. A land grab disguised as HOA enforcement, targeting multiple properties with the same playbook. Time to go on offense. I assembled my team like something out of a heist movie. Cousin Rick, the water rights attorney, Dr. Santos, with her federal wildlife connections, Mrs. Chen and Tom Rodriguez, fellow victims ready for justice, Deputy Martinez for law enforcement credibility, even Sarah's old college friend, who'd become an environmental reporter. The legal strategy had multiple prongs. We'd file harassment charges with 8 months of evidence, initiate the federal conservation easement process, prepare a formal HOA financial audit request, document every trespassing incident for criminal charges. The conservation masterpiece was bigger than just protecting my land. We'd partner with Texas Parks and Wildlife to create a demonstration organic farm for school visits, establish a golden-cheeked warbler research station, and host workshops on sustainable ranching. This ranch would become an educational treasure. Financially, the numbers were staggering. The conservation easement would save me $47,000 0 cents annually in property taxes. Federal grants for habitat restoration, $180,000 0 cents. State tax credits for agricultural education, $25,000 0 cents. Tourist revenue from eco-tours, projected $30,000 0 cents yearly. Pat's harassment was about to make me rich. Community organizing revealed the scope of her crimes. 23 families documented Pat's violations at a secret meeting. Collective evidence showed $89,000 0 cents in illegal fines levied against innocent neighbors. We planned a coordinated confrontation at the next board meeting. The environmental reporter loved the corruption angle. HOA president targets wildlife sanctuary for development would make national news. State Wildlife Agency confirmation of rare species protection brought federal involvement. Serious legal exposure for Pat. Professional surveys confirmed my water rights ownership. Environmental impact studies documented the ecosystem's value. Legal research revealed Pat's own property violated 5 HOA rules she enforced on others. The smell of diesel fuel and crunch of gravel under truck tires reminded me this was still a working ranch, but now it was also a fortress. I publicly announced a community meeting about the ranch's future, sending formal invitations to all HOA board members for a discussion of mutual concerns and future cooperation. Pat couldn't resist the chance to publicly humiliate me one final time. Pat spent the week before our meeting spreading rumors that I was finally selling to developers. She claimed victory to anyone who'd listen. Finally got that troublemaker to cooperate. She brought the local newspaper reporter to document her anticipated triumph and coached board members on talking points for maximum humiliation. What Pat didn't know was that federal wildlife agents had agreed to attend my meeting. Conservation easement papers sat ready for signing. The county commissioner, secretly fed up with Pat's antics, agreed to witness everything. My security cameras would record every word. Pat arrived with a formal PowerPoint presentation about community standards and architectural renderings of improved property usage. She planned to pressure me into accepting HOA oversight in front of everyone, completely unaware my property was about to receive federal protection status. 47 people attended, the entire HOA plus my supporters. Pat opened with slides about property values, declaring, "Today we resolve this dispute through reasonable compromise." I sat quietly in the back, letting her dig her own grave deeper. Her demands were outrageous. I must accept a $500 0 cents monthly maintenance assessment. Allow HOA periodic inspections of visible areas. Remove all farm equipment within 30 days. Sign a formal agreement acknowledging HOA authority over my private property. Several residents shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Peterson, who'd been forced to sell her home, whispered, "This sounds awfully familiar." Murmurs of discontent rippled through the crowd as Pat's authoritarian pattern became obvious. I kept taking notes, saying nothing. Frustrated by my calm demeanor, Pat made her fatal mistake. "If you don't cooperate, we'll make your life hell. I have connections that can shut down your little farm." Then she threatened to call immigration on my workers, all legal American citizens. I stood up with a thick folder. "Pat, I have some documents you might find interesting." I showed the water rights paperwork. "You've been using my water for 4 years without permission." "That's impossible," Pat shrieked. "We have municipal water." "Check your source," I replied. "Natural spring on my property." The county official confirmed it. The HOA's pond is entirely fed by the Thompson Spring. Pat's face went pale as she realized her complete lack of leverage. "Fine," Pat screamed. "We'll dig our own well." "Actually, you can't," I said calmly. "Check your deed restrictions." The HOA's own covenant prohibited wells to maintain the natural landscape aesthetica rule Pat had written herself 2 years earlier. The audience began turning against her as residents realized they were completely dependent on my goodwill for their water supply. Tom Rodriguez stood up. "Pat, you told us the pond was community property." Mrs. Chen added, "How much have we spent on this legal fight?" Board members started physically distancing themselves from their president as I began my document dump. Photos of Pat trespassing on my property, records of misused HOA funds, evidence of her 8-month harassment campaign, and the big reveal. Federal Wildlife Protection status. Pat played her final card, calling 911. "I need police. He's threatening residents and holding our water hostage." Deputy Martinez arrived, my cousin, as promised. "Ma'am, what seems to be the problem?" "Arrest him for extortion," Pat demanded. That's when the federal wildlife agents revealed themselves. "Actually, ma'am, this property is now under federal protection." They showed the conservation easement documents. Any interference with protected habitat constitutes a federal crime. Pat's complete mental breakdown was spectacular. She screamed about conspiracy and corruption, accused me of bribing officials, and tried to physically grab the federal documents from the agent's hands. "Ma'am," Deputy Martinez said firmly, "you need to calm down right now." The environmental reporter explained to confused residents how conservation benefits worked. Property taxes would be reduced for the entire watershed area. Educational programs would bring tourism revenue. Everyone would benefit, except Pat and her criminal realtor friend. The charges came rapid fire: harassment with documented evidence, criminal trespass, felony level with commercial intent, misuse of HOA funds, both civil and criminal violations, federal interference with protected wildlife habitat. The HOA board held an emergency vote of no confidence, removing Pat as president immediately. They approved a forensic audit of all finances and publicly apologized to me for her behavior. The taste of victory was sweeter than morning coffee over my own land. The handcuff moment was pure poetry. Pat was led away screaming about property rights, while local news cameras captured her complete meltdown. "This is America. You can't protect birds over people," she shrieked as Deputy Martinez helped her into the patrol car. I remained dignified, saying nothing to the press, a stark contrast to her hysteria. The immediate aftermath was chaos. 47 residents learned the true cost of Pat's vendetta. $89,000 in illegal fines had to be refunded. The HOA faced potential lawsuits from multiple victims. Property values actually increased with the conservation status announcement. The story exploded across social media. HOAkaren versus wildlife sanctuary. Environmental groups praised my conservation choice. Property rights advocates supported my stand against government overreach. National attention brought unexpected allies from across the political spectrum. When the reporter asked for my statement, I kept it simple. I just wanted to raise cattle and protect the land my grandfather loved. Pat taught me that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, but I'd rather build something beautiful than tear someone down. That became the mic drop moment that went viral. Community healing began immediately. The new HOA board invited me to an advisory position. Residents volunteered for habitat restoration projects. We launched a children's environmental education program. Mrs. Chen approached me with tears in her eyes. "Why didn't we listen to you sooner?" Pat's consequences unfolded like dominoes. Criminal charges for harassment, trespass, and fund misuse. Civil suits from multiple HOA residents seeking damages. Her divorce settlement increased due to criminal activity. The state suspended her real estate license pending investigation. At my victory speech by the ranch entrance, golden-cheeked warblers called from Granddad's oak tree as if celebrating. "This land will be protected forever now," I told the gathered crowd. "My grandchildren will hear these birds sing." The Wildlife Service presented a conservation award. The $2,300,000, 0 cents in tax credits over 10 years, was confirmed. Research station funding was approved. My little ranch had become a national model for suburban conservation. Emma now proudly tells classmates about our sanctuary. Connor leads school tours of warbler habitat. Sarah's organic farm education program has a waiting list. Our family grew stronger, fighting together. 6 months later, Pat was sentenced to community service and restitution, 200 hours maintaining my nature trails, the most ironic justice imaginable. She lost her house in the divorce, moved to a small apartment, and became a bitter but broken woman who crossed the street to avoid seeing me in town. The community transformation was remarkable. HOA members voted to dissolve their organization entirely, replacing it with the voluntary Sunset Hills Conservation Association. Instead of enforcement and fines, they focused on environmental protection. Property values jumped 23% due to the sanctuary designation. My ranch sanctuary thrives beyond my wildest dreams. 200 students visit monthly for environmental education. We've documented 3 endangered species. The University Research Partnership brings graduate students and grant money. National Geographic featured us in their conservation issue. Sarah and I launched new ventures built on our victory. My sustainable ranching consultation business serves clients nationwide. Her organic farm supplies 5 local restaurants. Emma won the state science fair with her warbler research project. Connor started a junior naturalist program that's spreading to other schools. The legal precedent we set has been cited in 3 federal court decisions, strengthening conservation easement protections and limiting HOA authority over adjacent properties. Environmental lawyers use our case as a template for fighting suburban development pressure. Our annual Earth Day festival raises $50,000, 0 cents, for local school environmental programs. Ecotourism brings $300,000, 0 cents, annually to our small town. 12 new businesses open to support visitors. 5 other states have copied our regional conservation model. The strangest moment came at the grocery store last month. Pat approached me in the cereal aisle, creating an awkward silence that lasted forever. Finally, she spoke. "I lost everything trying to control what wasn't mine." "It's never too late to do the right thing," I replied. She nodded and walked away. Some people have to lose everything to find their humanity. Standing in Granddad's pasture this morning, watching my future grandson chase butterflies in my imagination, I know this protected land will outlast us all. The same meadowlarks sing the same songs. The cycle of protection continues. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's building something so beautiful that their hatred looks ridiculous by comparison. Share your worst HOA story in the comments below. I bet you've got nightmare neighbors too. Hit that subscribe button for more property rights victories, because next week I'm telling you about the city councilman who tried to steal my neighbor's backyard through eminent domain abuse. That story ends with him in federal prison. Remember, document everything. Know your rights, and never let petty tyrants win. The land is worth fighting for.